what does go on the National Register of Historic Places in 1970?
The Wainwright Mausoleum.
And Bellefontaine Cemetery itself would not go on the register until 2014.
Yeah, a little bit later to get the whole place, but the Wainwright led the charge.
It did, and it really goes to show you and me the importance of the structure itself and just what an architectural gem it is to have that in St. Louis.
And in Bellefontaine
And Bellefontaine Cemetery on Prospect Street.
Also known as Millionaire's Row, but we'll get into more detail.
I can dig it.
This is the Can You Dig It podcast. We crawl into the crypts, gardens, and forgotten cemeteries. Join Dan Fuller, your resident cemetery chronicler, and Joe Shields, the plot-loving development exec, as we unearth the dark secrets of St. Louis and Bellefontaine Cemetery and beyond. From garden geeks to history buffs with a taste for the macabre, as well as fans of iconography, this is your podcast. We love diving deep into the shadows of history. Let's dig in.
So, I really got excited from our last, we'll call it episode, having John with us and being able to really take this to a different level was very, very exciting. With me today is, of course, my cohort, Mr. Joe Shields, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for some time, first as a volunteer and now as staff at Bellefontaine Cemetery and Arboretum.
And I have the distinct pleasure of working with Dan Fuller, Bellefontaine Cemetery and Arboretum's chronicler or historian. And as the director of development, I couldn't ask for a better partner. What Dan has been able to achieve at the cemetery with building an organic volunteer program, help guiding me through my journey as a volunteer has just been an incredible journey. And today, on the second part of our conversation regarding architects and architecture in St. Louis, we have the distinct pleasure of talking to John Gunther again. John is an accomplished St. Louis architect and principal of John Gunther, LLC, and we're going to pivot to talk about Charlotte Dixon, Ellis Wainwright's wife. We are going to talk about the Wainwright Mausoleum and all things that compose that, and then talk about iconography and just the history of the building.
And then we'll finish it out with Ellis again. And John kind of made this point in the fact that in Louis Sullivan's design and creation, he's very aware of who he's designing for, and that his building must reflect that individual. And from that standpoint, I'm just going to point out that the Wainwright Building, built for the SLBA, St. Louis Brewing Association, as they're finishing that out in basically 1891, it is the death of the love of Ellis Wainwright's life, Charlotte Dixon Wainwright, that will become the inspiration, the genesis of what will become the Wainwright Mausoleum. Charlotte was only 34 years old. Ellis Wainwright was her second marriage. From all my understanding and research I've done, her first marriage was not a pleasant one, but it seemed that in finding Ellis, they truly had a kindredship, a bonding. And Charlotte was quite the prize in St. Louis. She was known, again, here we go, to that one of the most beautiful women in St. Louis. Just 3 days prior to her death from peritonitis from a ruptured appendix, she was at a large gala being held in St. Louis, and she was, the apple of everybody's eye. And then here we are in basically April of 1891, Charlotte Dixon Wainwright's life comes to an end.
And what a monument the tomb is to Charlotte. I've toured thousands of people through that mausoleum over the years, and going inside and just being hit with the angels in the ceiling and the way they're arranged and just the intentionality, if that's even a correct word for this, of how everything is placed. To me, it just says love story.
John, what do you think?
Yeah, it's an incredibly beautiful expression of an eternal masterpiece, a place for them to spend eternity together. and so thoughtfully designed. Every cubic inch of this building is designed with great integrity and of the highest level. And so it truly is honoring, Louis Sullivan through this design truly honored Charlotte Dixon Wainwright and Ellis Wainwright in this final design and composition.
So what was the first time you got to see just the Wainwright? We'll talk about going in later, but when you first saw it, were you still a student? Were you an established architect?
I was back in St. Louis working as an architect, so I had the chance to witness this, experience it with some history, with of studying the architectural history that we have, and I just immediately was drawn to its power and its simplicity and its composition. It is a totally integrated design, and has so many beautiful attributes to celebrate. In fact, I think of it as a both and design. It's both a monochromatic exterior of limestone and a polychromatic interior of marble and mosaic tile. It's both timeless forms and a modern interpretation and ornamentation. And it's both elemental and ornate. And it's both symmetrical and asymmetrical. So it's really a fascinating study of design to have that both and approach. It's not exclusively one or the other. It's a beautiful, harmonious design.
I think you like it.
I do very, very much.
And at Bellefontaine, we definitely appreciate your stewardship of it. You've talked about it at great detail. You've talked a lot with me. A lot of what I do on tour, quite honestly, comes from you. It was not too terribly long ago that you identified for us some new tips and secrets in the fact that the angels on the inside actually follow the needle of the compass. And so when you look at this structure on, we'll say, Google Maps, it's a compass pointing with its corners to due north, south, east, and west. And that kind of doubles back to what we'll talk a little bit more about in a little bit, and that's the iconography, the imagery. But I do want to, because, we'd love to point fingers in Chicago, I do a compare and contrast between those two mausoleums that predated the Wainwright and then the Wainwright, and just you kind of hit this nail on the head before as far as that overarching aspect of what Louis Sullivan has now done and what he's able to accomplish at Wainwright.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's intriguing because it is, you can see a blending of the earlier mausoleums in Chicago and this incredibly beautiful new design for the Wainwrights, in that this is a very classical form, a dome set atop a cubic form. And one, if you begin to think about the Pantheon in Rome and that great dome with its stair steps at the base of the dome itself, one can see a young Sullivan traveling Europe and taking note of that form. As we pointed out, this is in limestone, as was the earlier design. There's a simplicity and a modernism to this that, in a way, there's that simplicity of that Egyptian style. So, but this is truly of and by Wainwright himself. The design, the ornament that traces each facade it follows the same pattern, the same outline, but each facade is unique. So a both and approach again. But this ornament is one that, again, is referential to the Hop family, and therefore the family business, the family wealth, and so on. And the other thing I find really fascinating is, while you, at first glance, you might think all four facades are the same, when you study the patterns of the ornament, you realize they represent the cycles of life. And again, Sullivan just brings a much deeper appreciation for life, the beginning of life, middle life, end of life, which this is commemorating.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I actually talk about from what I learned from you, and I kind of break it down in very simple terms in the fact that Ellis lost the love of his life, a 34-year-old, and he didn't want to think of life as a linear format. He wanted to think of life in that season spring, summer, fall, winter, that after each winter there would be another spring. He would see her again in whatever comes next.
Yes.
And that was, I like to think of what he thought when he came to that structure, that though she was here, that he would see her again. And as you said, all four sides of it reflect that. And it's always the attention to detail. And again, that goes back to the iconography aspect.
John, do you think that Wainwright and Sullivan knew at the time that this was built what it was, or the impact that it would have?
Hard to say. I think history has to be the judge of that, and appreciation grows over time. But certainly, Wainwright gave Ellis his very, very, very best, to be sure. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room for just a second. 3 mausoleums. 2 have something that the third one doesn't have. And I know that's one of your favorite things to talk about. What's missing from the Wainwright?
The name.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And, that is in many regards, a statement of certain confidence, right? We don't need a name here. And perhaps the ornament itself speaks for it, but it was such a powerful design that I guess it was expected to be known that was the Wainwright tomb.
Right.
It had no need of the letters to inscribe on there the name.
No neon signs for the Wainwright Mausoleum.
Yes. And John, can you speak on how it's positioned?
Yeah.
And the light coming through the windows?
Yeah, it's interesting that when you look at the plan view of it, it actually is oriented diagonally, actually, to the northeast and southwest. And so the entrance to the building, to the mausoleum, is from the northeast. So it's facing out from this hilltop. It's facing out over the Mississippi River. But by position, the way the road wraps around, it was a natural response to run parallel with the road, and therefore it's at a 45-degree angle to north. And so that said, again, that idea of the morning sunrise, the entrance, the beginning of life, and when you look at the ornament on that facade, and again, Paula Lupkin, a historian at the University of North Texas, has identified this as the hop family, and the hops that are carved into the northeast facade, the entrance, I will say are literally pregnant with life. They are protruding out from the facade in the most beautiful way. You can just feel the life coming out there. And then on the southeast side, you can feel more life, and life is evolving and growing in a beautiful organic structure. On the northwest side, you can see, again, beautiful organic life patterns, but it's much flatter, so it's representative of a later point in life. That energy might be a little bit less. And the most moving, to me, facade is on the southwest side, the sunset, appropriately thinking of it in terms of death. And it is composed of a pattern that has carved circles with beautiful organic designs, plant forms within those circles, but a series of circles that wrap around the pattern on that facade. But they're actually separated. The circles are separated, and then there's a little X, if you will, between those circles. And when you join that is the symbol of infinity. And so therefore, it's an elegant way architecturally to express the idea of eternal life. Infinity, no beginning, no end, and it appropriately is on the southwest side facing the sunset of life and death.
Just amazing.
So it's wonderful that we've done all four sides of this, but I'm going to, in our next section, pull back just a little bit to fall, where if you look very closely, you'll find the nautilus shell. And I think when we come back, John will be able to explain that to our listeners quite well.
Podcasts are a powerful tool to reach your target market in today's digital age. Here's why. Listeners can tune in whenever and wherever they want fitting your podcast seamlessly into their lives. Unlike videos, podcasts don't require full attention, allowing listeners to multitask while absorbing your message. Podcasts foster a more intimate and personal connection with your audience compared to text-based content. Podcasts allow you to niche down and target a specific audience with interests directly relevant to your message. Now, why launch your podcast with EG Media Group? EG Media Group is a one-stop shop for all your podcasting needs. We are here to help you with strategic planning. We'll develop a plan to reach your target audience and achieve your podcasting goals. Our team will ensure your podcast sounds professional and polished. We'll help you get your podcast out there and reach new listeners. So, if you're looking to leverage the power of podcasting to connect with your target market, visit egmediagroup.com today and turn your podcasting dream into a reality. That's egmediagroup.com. EG Media Group. Create, connect, convert.
So, the Nautilus shell. It's a simple form, but it has so much meaning, especially for the architect. And I know that the Wainwright Mausoleum utilizes the essence of what's in that shell. And so I think John can expand much more eloquently than I can.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, as I have observed the Wainwright tomb over the years, I've been so impressed by its beauty and its proportion. And it got me to thinking about the proportional systems that architects would use to organize and arrange their designs. And there's a proportional system which is referred to as the golden section, the golden spiral, the Fibonacci series. And you can apply this pattern of proportionality to architecture across time, from the Parthenon to Notre Dame, and basically, if you follow a very interesting and simple pattern, the Fibonacci series is a series of numbers that you add up successfully. 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 1 is 3, 3 and 2 is 5, 5 and 3 is 8, and so on and so forth. And what that does is those form a series of squares of different sizes, and it will then produce this spiral shape that Dan is referring to. And this shape can be found in nature appropriately, and it's something of an eternal truth, if you will, because you can find it in a seashell in that spiral, and you can find it in the spiral nebula. So at all scales of nature, this amazing proportional system can be found. And so I took that proportional design and I applied it to the facade of the Wainwright tomb. And when I applied this golden section, this golden spiral over the facade of the Wainwright tomb, it describes the proportions of each facade to within a fraction of an inch. And what's even more interesting is when you see this spiraling shape, it actually positions the edge of the door leading into the mausoleum as well. So beautifully proportioned, and you find that on all four facades, and you find it also in subsets, if you will, the projecting arms that form benches. There is the golden section available in that design as well.
So interesting you bring up those benches, because I want to circle back to something that I learned from another architect that was, I think, near and dear to your heart as well as to us at Bellefontaine Cemetery, and that's Gene Mackey. Mm-hmm. Gene Mackey also had great esteem for the Wainwright, and one day I had the privilege of listening to him talk, and he loved those benches. He saw those benches as one of the things that took the Getty to one level but the Wainwright to another, and he kind of acknowledged those benches as two arms reaching out and embracing and inviting you to come within. And I always kind of comment that when I do look at the Getty, I love it as a piece of architecture, but it does look like it kind of fell out of the sky into its location, where the Wainwright seems to kind of come from the ground on up. And it's that platform, that bench that does that. And so I really have to say I appreciate you and Gene Mackey and what I've been able to learn, and then hopefully in turn teach all of those people who come to Bellefontaine Cemetery and Arboretum for those tours.
Yes, I've enjoyed that story as well, and I heard Gene speak of that many times. I was a partner and a principal at Gene Mackey's office and worked with him for 27 years. So we would talk a lot about this, and it is like this beautiful embrace, if you will, as you walk up to the front door. And it's very thoughtful and it's very loving that you can sit and and just have a moment of repose before you enter or after you've left, and you can take in that prospect out over the beautiful river valley. So very, very thoughtful of its site and for its client. I will point out, interestingly enough, there's another architect, a very, very great architect, Harvey Ellis. And he was in Kansas City, and he did make his way to St. Louis, and he designed our City Hall, the Compton Hill Water Tower, the Washington Terrace Gates, and an asylum out near the University of Missouri, St. Louis, a beautiful asylum out there for a group of sisters, religious sisters, to care for the ill. But at any rate, he designed a design for James Burns, a congressman who had passed away. And this was out in St. Joseph, Missouri. And in his famous rendering from 3 years prior, it also has the 3 steps up and seats on either side flanking the entrance to the gate to the mausoleum. So in a completely different style of architecture. But Ellis was widely published, and I would not be surprised in the least if this was seen in one of the architectural publications and may have influenced the Wainwright.
No, it's inspiration. I mean, mankind is repeated of this as, one person takes it to one place, somebody's going to take it to another, and so on and so forth. This is where I do want to circle back to the person who made it happen, and that was Ellis Wainwright. And as I said prior, I find that in St. Louis, if I use the word Wainwright, 9 times out of 10, they're going to ask if it's related to the baseball player. I always have to kind of let the air out of their tires from that. But the Wainwright family, which at Bellefontaine, 2 generations are represented on our grounds, is one of those very much overlooked individuals in St. Louis. I don't know if you've got some other thoughts on our friend Ellis that you'd like to include as we kind of wrap up.
Well, he's a great businessman. He after his father dies, Samuel, and he inherits his side of the business, and then Ellis buys out the business partners. I think, John, please correct me if I'm wrong, but within 3 to 5 years, the size of the brewery and the operation doubles.
Yes.
And so it just goes to show you that Ellis was just a great businessman, and grew the brewery, and then very strategically, I would have to say, when he sold to the SLBA, they retain him as the president, but then in his new building, he has a revenue stream of renting out the space for the SLBA, and then multiple floors of business of revenue for others.
Yeah, and let's think about the timing.
Amen.
He just built a revenue stream just as Prohibition is about to hit. And so while other brewers might be seeing hard times ahead, he has a consistent revenue stream coming on in. Mm-hmm. So the other attention to detail that I think Ellis would get more credit for than potentially even Louis Sullivan on that, and that is a question that I get from a lot of people who come to tour the Wainwright, and that's the lines on the bottom of Charlotte Wainwright's crypt top. And it is actually from a poem that was done some years before by Anna Barbald. And it is a poem that is called Life, I Know Not What Thou Art. And the last couple of lines on this, I think, are very poignant. And it says, "Say not good night, but in some brighter clime, bid me good morning." And I go back to what I said before about Ellis, and in his mind, it was necessary for him to know that this was not the end, that the infinity sign on the back, that the 4 seasons, that this poem all is an underscore of the fact that he would see Charlotte again.
Yep.
And in fact, there is a poem on his tomb that is quite beautiful. From the words of Alfred Lord Tennyson, "Oh, for the touch of a vanished hand, and the sound of a voice that is still.
And those two things together, if you stop to think about it, he's bringing it full circle. And again, like I said, this is not a detail that Louis Sullivan would necessarily have. I think this is definitely Ellis Wainwright.
What a monument we have at Bellefontaine. It's an architectural masterpiece. There's a love story to be told on the inside.
Right.
And out of all the people that I tour this building on an annual basis, it just never ceases to amaze me, the awe and the wonder that people have as they're exiting the building.
Right.
Unlike any monument that I've seen.
They've never not gone to a special place.
Yes.
But this is where I do have to acknowledge our friend across the table here, and the fact that John has been very instrumental in years past and present in helping us preserve this important piece of architecture. I know he's done other communications before about the Wainwright, and so if you as we do in these days, Google our friend John Gunther here. You will find him talk in great detail about architecture, but more importantly for us, the Wainwright Mausoleum. And as I tell everybody all the time, we are but stewards. We are holding the ground that these people built something on, and the better that we can take care of it today, the longer it'll be into the future. And hopefully we can, all learn from this piece of architecture that, we don't just put a few lines on a piece of paper and build something, that it takes all this thought, all this, focus to make something that will last the test of time.
Yes, indeed. And I want to also say thank you for your stewardship of and caring for these incredible mausoleums, and as well as the Wainwright. And go back to 2008 when you had your restoration, and you worked with Jim Henschel, the restoration architect, J.E. Novak Construction, Aaron Novak, and also work with Gary Sextro, Capital Restoration and Painting, now JTW Restoration Services. But they did a magnificent job of restoring the building of the mausoleum, bringing it back to its full beauty, taking care of a few cracks that had developed over time and patching that, but it brought it back to its full glory. And then again, more recently, you've gone back and within the past couple of years and cleaned the mausoleum again, and we're very grateful for that, to bring it back to that beautiful condition it's in today.
And John, thank you for bringing that up. That was an incredible gift via the Bernoulli Foundation.
Yes. And
the Bernoulli Foundation was pivotal in providing the funds for just a basic cleaning of the exterior, which was long overdue. Between 2008 and just 2 years ago, it had shown some wear and tear.
But you said basic. I think that's kind of funny, because I know that it is a special recipe. It is particular water at a particular temperature at a particular distance, and I mean there's nothing random about it. It is, to take care of it properly is an exercise.
Well, I had not seen it. I had not seen the exterior in its true color and true shape until 2 years ago. And I'm not trying to spin this, and I can't reiterate enough, the true glory of what the monument brings when it's clean. And if you go on the cemetery's Instagram page, I think it was the most liked post we've ever had is the before and after of the cleaning of the Wainwright in just, I believe, two half years ago.
Yeah, and that's the essence of who we are. I probably overuse that stewards aspect, but we are preserving the Wainwright, the 314 acres, the 87,000 people who are with us, but more importantly, we're still active, and
yes,
we can preserve more. And we recently had a new piece of architecture brought to the cemetery, and so it's not over, folks. It continues. We're still in the thick of things, and we definitely invite you to come out and take a look.
Absolutely. This is not only an amazing monument in itself, but it's so equally amazing where it's at in the cemetery. It's on the most famous, notable street in the cemetery, on Prospect Street, and it's positioned perfectly. It just couldn't have worked out any better. And John, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Adler and Sullivan built the most important piece of funerary architecture in North America.
I would concur with that. It is truly a remarkable work of architecture. As we've talked about, literally every cubic inch has been thought about and resolved so beautifully and integrated organically. And it gives me pause to think about, there's a relationship here between Ellis Wainwright and Louis Sullivan, architect-client relationship, and they've just worked together and completed one of the most significant pieces of architecture in modern architecture at the time, the expression of the tall office building with the steel skeletal frame, the ornament that is integral and is reflective of the brewing business, the hops. And this is truly a masterpiece in its own right. And Sullivan finds himself now to take on a completely different project type, unfortunately, with the passing of Ellis Wainwright's wife. And he has risen to the occasion with this design every bit as much as he did for that magnificent high-rise building. So the Wainwright office building, what it is to the high-rise architecture, the Wainwright tomb is to funerary architecture. It just set a whole new standard, took it to a whole new level, and is one of the most beautifully resolved pieces of architecture you'll find anywhere in the world.
I can dig it.
So Bellefontaine Cemetery and Arboretum is open 7 days a week. The gates are going to open at 8:30 in the morning, and they close at 5 p.m. And this incredible masterpiece of architecture is accessible to the public every day. Walk right up to it. Enjoy it. Circle around. Look at all of the intricacies that John Gunther, Dan Fuller, and myself have talked about over these last 2 episodes. And if you have any questions, please contact us at the cemetery. Go to www.bellefontainecemetery.org. And if you have questions about tours and events, or the Friends of Bellefontaine, the philanthropic arm of the cemetery that raises funds to fund projects to restore the mausoleum, please contact me. I'm Joe Shields. I'm the Director of Development. J Shields at bcastl.org, and that's JSHIELDS at bcastl.org. I would love to answer questions you have about the Wainwright, the cemetery, and would love to talk to you about upcoming tours and events.
And Joe won't tell you, but he does the mausoleum tours, and he's the one who can get you on a tour to see the inside.
I dig the mausoleums.
Thanks for listening to the podcast, and please share this episode with your family and friends. If you got value from the episode as well as the podcast, you can do it right from the platform you are listening on. Take a screenshot and tag us and tag yourself. We are at Podcast Can You Dig It on Instagram.